So this is the final track.
Final track,
of the
track
album.
10. Yeah.
So, real quick, I will introduce the song. Is it Ohio or OHIO? Because I know it's an abbreviation. I am curious.
Yeah.
How you would, if you were to introduce it, would you say Ohio?
It's a lot easier to just say Ohio, same way you'd say scuba. It is OHIO, right? Yeah.
Because it stands for okay, hand it over.
Exactly.
Which has its own
exactly.
story.
And again, this is going back to the bookends of why starting it with Boston, ending it with Ohio, was the beginning of the story, the ending of the story. And Ohio was actually the original title of that album that I was writing in Boston. It had a different album cover, title, track listing, everything. Ohio was its original name. And Ohio stands for okay, hand it over. That stemmed from a story that I had a long time ago with an old manager who, when I wasn't really sure if I wanted to pursue music. It's a really tough career to be a musician full time, and I wanted to go to school, I wanted to travel, I wasn't really sure where music was heading. He said, if you don't pursue music, you're kind of a waste of a person or a waste of talent. I was so mad at that because I was like, that's not all I'm good for. I said that line to my manager. I was like, okay, then hand it over. You pay for the studio time. You pay for this. Then you can't just expect me to do it. It's really hard. So hand it over. And it was like almost an argument we had. And that anger kind of turned into not wanting to pursue music at all, fully out of just resentment or just being stubborn. And that's when I went traveling, and that's when I moved to Australia, and that's...
So this was all before then?
This has been an ongoing...
quite young when this all happened.
I was a teenager. I was 17 when this happened. Being called a waste of a person at 17, I don't know, that kind of affects your self-esteem a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, well, I'm going to leave Canada, I'm going to travel. And then I met my boyfriend, and I moved to Australia. That's where all of this started to begin. And it is the bookend of this album because it was a part of the original project, the original album I had. And then when I started writing this album, starting it with Boston and ending it with Ohio, it was kind of like the past bookending what my actual story is now. Starting with...
Well, it's ironic that Ohio, in each of these individual stories the songs are, Ohio is really the start of it all.
Totally. Yeah. So what I like about Ohio, it's like a movie or an essay where it is the conclusion, where the Ohio in the lyrics actually holds every story from every song so far. Mm-hmm. So when you listen to Ohio, the lyrics are about, it opens with young one, go spend money on your art, you'll go crazy at the start when no one's really buying. It's really about, okay, where do I go from here? What do I do now? A lot of questions again. And there's, lines about my breakup in there. There's lines about losing dad in there. There's lines about traveling. Mm-hmm. And each line is kind of like a throwback to every other song in the album. So this song was like a conclusion, like a wrap up.
Yeah, it is your in conclusion, Boston in the fall. Tell me how, the vow.
Exactly. And every line is related somehow. And then the song ends with this forgiveness chorus where it's like, forgive yourself, say yes to this, say yes to that, forgive that this happened. And I purposely wanted this song to sound like the end of a movie, and that's why I brought the orchestra in. And the album ends with the line, because I'd like to see another day. So it's kind of like what's next? Okay, on to tomorrow. And it was just important to end the album this way. And if I do say so myself, what I loved is Boston begins with the same 3 notes that Ohio ends in. So it was like this just wrap up. So when you listen, if the album's on a loop, it actually perfectly loops around. So that's another little Easter egg that I threw in there.
A lot of people will have loss. Most everyone will lose a parent. And that kind of just ends there. It just kind of, it happens to them and nobody really knows about it. But to have a song out there written for my dad, even it is your dad as well, but to have a song out there that is for my dad, that is acknowledging the memory of him and everything that he is and he was and who he was as a dad, is very important to me and special to me. So I do want to say, like, thank you for that, because I know obviously it's your same loss, but that's something that's important to me, and I'm sure it's important to Matt and Mom and everyone. But that song exists, so thank you for all this.
Man.
And I think that's it for the interview part, right?
I love you, man.